Next, I'd like to bring up Christine Crandell. She's the president of New Business Strategies, and she'll share with us the 6 megatrends that are shaping 2021 and beyond, and the impact they will have on manufacturers and distributors. She has created measurable value for over 100 B2B private and public companies in North America, Australia, and Europe. As a recognized expert in customer experience, transformation, and strategy, her clients realize on average about 40 to 50% increases in revenue and ROI. So her topic today will be how the new normal will impact manufacturers. So I'd like to bring up Christine Crandell to the stage.
Hi, everybody. Let me get my screen presentation set up just right. So can everybody see the present? Oops, didn't do what I was wanting it to do. There we go. Tim, thank you very much. Is everything good on your end? Can you see the screen?
It looks great. Thank you, Christine.
Awesome. I'm like still reverberating from Maria's presentation, which I thought was absolutely fantastic. And making me think, oh, I need to go talk to my accountant. I need to make sure everything's okay. Well, thank you everybody for joining in. And we're going to go through a lot of information in a short amount of time, and I'm going to be as succinct as I can. So let's kind of start off with basically what happened, right? You know, the pandemic has been called by lots of folks being a black swan event. And black swan events are seen as highly disruptive events that seemed unpredictable, but yet in hindsight, when you do analyze them, the signs that they were going to occur have been there for quite some time. And what's interesting when we look at black swan events is that, this is very much human nature, is that we often don't recognize the significance of emerging trends and when they're starting to come together to a tipping point. So in many ways, the pandemic was this catalyst, was this tipping point that forced these trends that have been growing over time to actually sort of like, you know, fall over that tipping point and disrupt everything. So the key is out of this black swan event is to start to look at, well, what does that really mean? You know, what does it mean to you? What does it mean when we look down the road? Because we don't want to just look to the end of this year. We actually want to go look further beyond that. So I'm going to share 6 mega trends and how these came about. We as a firm do a lot of future casting, which means we kind of look in our crystal ball to see what's going on. But around the January, February timeframe, when it was pretty clear that this was, you know, this was going to happen, that this tipping point was coming in the form of this pandemic, we started looking at hundreds and thousands of signposts, trying to get a handle on really timeframes and what those mega trends were. And we settled on 6. There are more than 6, but we settled on 6. And I'm going to go through them. And I'm going to talk about implications to you, and I'm going to talk about opportunities. And so I'm going to go a little bit quickly. Let me just put out there, if anybody's super interested in this, I'm willing to, my gift to each one of you is a free session. We'll dive deep into this, right? So just let me know. So the first one of the mega trends is speed, right? Time is the competition. And what happened pre-COVID was that, and I think if we all reflect, we all became extremely busy in our lives, right? And our time, which is our only and our most perishable asset, really did not belong to us. It belonged to our employer, it belonged to our social obligations, it belonged to all these different things. And COVID, when we were all sheltered in place, actually was this massive reset. And what happened, not just in this country, but actually around the world, from people I've talked to in Russia, to Brazil, to Singapore, was people started to realize, wait a minute, you know, I am not putting my time on my own interests. My interest could be family or whatnot. So what has happened as a result of this, and again, the trend has been in place for a while, is that it's now about speed, right? How do I save customers time without degradation in quality and experience? So I now, or you are now, going to compete against time. And in order to fulfill those needs in a faster way, in a better, in a much more desirable way that the customer actually wants it. Now, this is just as relevant to B2B as it is to B2C. So in it is phenomenal opportunity, right? And so let me talk about short-term some implications. The first one is flight to contactless engagement. whether you're in hospitality, right, where everything is contactless, or you're all the way in travel, or you're in healthcare, everything is moving to contactless. It's not necessarily all digital, but you're going to find that contactless engagement. The second is lights out manufacturing enabled by robotics, right? We all get the cost equation there, but the opportunity in that, and we're going to talk about micro niche markets, is that you're going to be able to have much more profitable, smaller runs that are going to go to very specific audiences to take advantage of micro niche markets, which is where the market is moving. And then, you know, the other implication is there's going to be this streamlined production line supported by mobile manufacturing and setting performance targets, you know, such as OEE. The opportunity that's in here is there are 4 of them are new combination business models, meaning look to your left, look to your right on your industries. And if they're serving similar or the same customer segments, partner into an ecosystem. You're going to see this autonomousness extend the entire supply chain and the value chain. So again, digital transformation, we've had a lot of conversations today about that. It's all about automating in order to make better decisions. The third is highly personalized products. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And then a new thing that's cropping up, which is this in the neighborhood distribution centers. So you're going to see, in the interest of time, instead of having the Federal Express guy come twice and the UPS guy comes 3 times a day and somebody else showing up, that, you know, that you're going to have these hubs that are in these neighborhoods, and it's basically another service that's actually going to deliver this. But, you know, it's a way of streamlining the process and being able to get things to your customers faster. When we look at the next mega trend, what came out of the past 20 years is that the power has shifted from the salesperson to the customer. And, you know, we've talked about this also today, and that's unleashed, you know, digital selling and digital marketing and a whole host of things. What came out of this tipping point of the pandemic was this realization that we, as much as we are digitally connected, we are physically isolated, right? And so there is this desire to have this reconnection, whether you're reconnecting to your tribe, to your community, to your family. And it has been a mind shift change that has driven through the industry that says, you know, what is now important are having these authentic connections, which is completely redefining how we do commerce. And what's interesting in this is the issue is speed and time, but the issue is this craving that we have to meet each other, right? And how do we meet each other in a way that is safe and is expedient? So 3 near-term implications. The one is the resurgence of the traditional sales model. Yes, you heard me. So we're going to go from everything digital selling. We're going to go back to the other way, and we're going to have a lot more of these personal relationships between the salesperson and you know, that buyer. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be in person, but it's all about, do I know what your kids are doing? You know, do I know who this person is? I'm going to establish a relationship. So we're seeing that rising a lot in the B2B world. So take a hard look at your selling model. The second is one that I think we're all feeling, which is loyalty shock. Because the customer realizes that they have different values and different behaviors now and different requirements, they are making different brand decisions happening on the B2B world as well as the B2C world. And so when you're looking at churn, look at it through the eyes of what's actually happening with that customer. And the third is we have for years been trying to skinny down the contact center and the sales center by automating it with chat and all sorts of other technology. That's backfiring big time. Go staff up your phones because customers, number one, will turn to the phone if they have an issue. They want to talk to a human being. 4 opportunities, 2 economies that are rising. First one, the health and the caring economy. This is all about us sitting on our butts all day long. And really, there's a whole economy cropping up around that on how to actually go serve serve us in that way. The second is the homebody economy. We're stuck at home, so you look at the bikes, you look at online gyms. There's a whole economy that's wrapping around us being at home, and that's not going to go away. Just because we go to the office doesn't mean it's going to go away. Third, Fifth industrial revolution. I'll talk a little bit more about that. We are in it. It's amazing. The fourth is a blending of digital and in-person. And what you're going to see is when we go back into physical environments, you will have a digital experience with that physical environment and vice versa. Manifests its way in lots of different forms. And again, happy to kind of go through that with you offline. But it's a real opportunity where we see the line between these two worlds actually going away and then becoming one world. So third one, let's organize around the customer. So what's happened here is as we go and start saving time and having speed without sacrificing quality and sacrificing the experience, what we're finding is that we have to organize differently. You know, this hierarchical model, this, you know, perks with ranks, this command and control, this centralized with decentralized execution doesn't work, right? And what we're finding is that companies are taking a really hard look and understanding the actionably how their customers are behaving and saying, how do I organize around what my customers want to experience, from awareness all the way through purchase, through post-purchase, through repeat purchase. You know, how do I actually go and organize around that? So what you'll start to see is a rise of these cross-functional teams that are self-governing. I've done it many times for companies over the last, 10 years. It works. It's just a little different than from what we're used to, but it's totally way cool. But we need to organize around the customer. 3 implications. First one, plan for continuous change. There is no going back to the normal the way it was. We're not in the new normal yet. We're in the now normal, to use a term that Chris Shipley uses. So plan for continuous change, right? We're not getting off of this rocky surfboard anytime. Second is the rise of micro niche markets. You're going to find that the way you do segmentation in the past doesn't apply in the future. You're going to have to get smaller and smaller and smaller, but they're going to be more and more and more. So keep an eye out for that and look for them. Third is cybersecurity. Because we're all digital, the number of breaches and attacks and the form of those breaches through the roof. If your house is not yet in order on cybersecurity, you're risking customer loyalty and you're risking your ability to differentiate. Customers are buying on how secure their data is, so get your house in order. 5 opportunities. First one, cross-industry ecosystems that serve the same customer, all right? I have brands that I actually spend all this time with, that they all came together into an ecosystem would make my life a whole lot easier, right? And would save me time, right? So these are rising up in healthcare, financial services. It's across the board. Get in on the game. 5th industrial revolution. The difference in 5th industrial revolution and the 4th was the 4th was all about technology in front of us. Cool stuff, distraction by shiny objects. The 5th industrial revolution takes technology where it should be, which is in the back as an enabler to enable humanity, to enable authentic connections, to enable more caring and a compassionate environment, right? I know it sounds very woo-woo-ish in the age of Aquarius and all of that, but we are in the 5th industrial revolution. So you got to figure out how you're going to play in that. Third, leverage your IoT data to define hyper-personalized products and services, right? That is the new direction where that the economy is going. 4th is rise of contactless engagement through AR and VR. Lots of companies are doing that. It's totally amazingly cool. Business to business customers love it, right? So it's a completely new way to have them experience equipment and experience environments. And then for you distributors out there, sorry, but the 5th one is that manufacturers are bypassing OEMs and they're bypassing distributors, and they're going direct to the consumer. So there's a real rise of that happening across all industries. And again, it's about having that connectivity to the customer and being able to serve them the way they want to be served with the experience. So next mega trend. If you don't know who Labatt's is beer, and it comes from Canada. And they are this great example of really a Vigilant. Okay, slow down, Christine. Vigilant organization that's driven by purpose. So what's happened over the last 30 years is that we have been shifting from a long-term orientation of creating value and a long-term orientation of creating healthy businesses to where we got to pre-COVID, which was this obsession with short-term opportunistic, right? And that has been clear, and that this trend has been now in place for a while, where businesses are starting to realize it doesn't work, right? And especially post-COVID, we're in an environment of change. If you're short-term opportunistically oriented, you're going to get crushed by that change. So a vigilant organization are organizations that are long-term oriented. So we're not talking about a year, we're talking about 5 years, we're talking about 10 years. They have learning cultures, and their purpose is rooted in one or several of the United Nations Sustainability Goals, the UN SDGs, right? And so there's a twist here. And what drives these companies is their mission and their purpose. What drives their market growth is that employees and customers are looking to basically support brands that actually align to their own definition of the purposes, of their own purposes. So we have this movement happening where we're looking long-term oriented because companies start to realize this short-term opportunistic stuff, you know, this quarter by quarter to quarter is killing organizations, and it's imbalancing the economy. You see it in the stock market relatively what's happening in the economy today. There is an imbalance there. So from vigilant organizations, you've got 4 implications, right? This is stuff you need to pay attention to. The first is downshifting consumerism, right? We're seeing it. It's not going to go away. This is here to stay, and it's directly tied to the UN SDGs. You're going to see a rise of brand authenticity based on your corporate social responsibility. So don't think this green thing is going to go away. You're going to see here shortly that it's actually here to stay. Third is look at new sourcing models that actually help you to make more local, greener material. Coupa, which is a client of ours, we work with them on doing V1 of their sustainability sourcing application, is a great place to go look to see how the thought leaders are actually doing it and how they're being adopted by companies like IKEA and other things. It's very, very cool. Makes life a whole lot easier. And the secondly is do not be surprised if you see green activism showing up in your employees and showing up in your boardrooms, right? So, so what are the opportunities? The 4 opportunities. There's a shift happening from quarterly performance, which we've all been addicted to this medium to long-term triple bottom line, right? You can't be sustainable in a short term. It just doesn't work out that way. You have to have a long-term view. So you're going to start to see this shift happening, and you're going to start to see investors actually have this longer shift. Do not be surprised when there is a regulatory requirement and then the SEC changes the filings to require a mandate or require your quarterly reporting on how you're performing to your SDG targets. It's been sitting on the shelf for 4 years during the Trump administration. It may come off the shelf sometime in the next 4 years. Assuming that Biden is, the president, but it's there, right? So don't be surprised. So get ahead of the game on this and move forward. Third, circular economy. Figure it out. It will drive market growth because companies are looking to do business around circular economy. And then you're going to see new fibers. Lots of new fibers are being developed that are specifically green oriented, that require a lot less water, and are just completely new models for new carbon fibers. So if we look at the next ones, the 5th mega trends are business models are shifting from optimization and efficiency to agility and speed. So what's happened in the past is in the 4th industrial revolution is because it's been technology, is that we've embraced so much technology, which doesn't always play really well with each other. And that has actually introduced rigidity into the organization. We cannot organize around the customer, deal with continuous change in an environment where you have rigidity baked into the situation, right? Baked into the organization. So the model calls for being flexible first. There are 3 elements to being flexible first. Digital transformation. You're going to have to redefine what it means to be an employee, right? And I don't have time to talk about that, but we can offline. And strategic planning. So the hallmark of to be successful post-COVID is you're going to be organizationally aligned, accountable, transparent, and self-governing. The self-governing goes back to these cross-functional teams that I talked about. And is flexible first is a way to move away from hierarchical structures and actually bake into the DNA how to actually operate like a school of fish and respond much more quickly to market conditions. So 5 opportunities. Look at the homogeneity that's happening between urban and rural demographics, right? And saying, how do I actually capitalize upon that, right? We are moving into a much more of the next 10 years, a homogeneous population, right? And there won't be these stark lines. So look at basically how you're going to capitalize that down the road. Okay, you're going to see the rise of apprenticeships and certification in lieu of four-year college educations. This will change your hiring practices. This is going to change what you're going to use as proxies for how you're going to measure whether someone's going to be a good employee or not, or whether you're actually going to bring them on as a contractor. But look at certification, look at apprenticeships, bake that into your recruiting model, because the four-year education is in the long tail of demise. The next is you're going to do much more accurate forecasting with multi-view demand. And you're going to also look at IoT and predictive maintenance to actually have better management of your equipment. And lastly, you look at traceability to increase the efficiency of field service, and so that it's you fix it right the first time they're out there. So that is, and then we have one more, and I'm going to go quickly because I realize I am over. And that is something that shouldn't surprise anybody on this call. And this is really, this is global supply chains are shifting to moving proximity to demand, right? What we realized painfully was hyper-optimized supply chains don't have any slack in them. There's no fat in them to accommodate sudden, unexpected change. And so they broke down. Right. And what that stimulated, or what that triggered, was this rise to say, how do I not only onshore and near shore, right? That's pretty much a no-brainer, but basically, you can look at rise of adaptive manufacturing, not just in the plant floor, not just out with field service, right? In their trucks, but also in the home, right? So this is massively disruptive when we look at supply chains that are actually elements of supply chains are going to go away because of adaptive manufacturing and because it's being commoditized, right? So in order to actually handle that and get around that and manage that, you're going to look at saying, how do I actually strategically segment my customers, and how do I understand what elements of what they use and those products that they use that can actually be that actually are going to be replaced or augmented by adaptive manufacturing. So and it's all part of this, it's all part of speed, it's all part of authentic customer relationships, all part of organizing around that customer. So you've got 2 near-term implications. You're going to have, shorter regional supply chains. Okay, we already have that today, no big surprise, but again, plan for it. And the second is, the rise of AI-driven anticipatory demand planning, right? So we're seeing a lot of that happening here in the short term. So you might want to take a look at how you're handling that. 3, opportunities. The first is looking at the rise of the new materials, especially nanomaterials. True game changers are happening across the world in terms of these new fibers that are coming into play. You're going to see, the rise of new industries. So the industries that we see on horizon that are actually growing by leaps and bounds are agritech, right? Because we're seeing commoditization of, drones and AI and LEO data, or, Earth observation data being brought into the agritech world in order to improve planet, in order to improve field productivity. And we're going to see rising in medtech. The other area that I want you to take a hard look at is when we look at the rise of the next geoeconomy is not necessarily China, is look at Africa. Africa is very much on the rise and is on the forefront of a tremendous amount of innovation. And this is, this is the one in the next 20 years will be the next, center of the economy. Okay, so this all comes down to really, what are you going to do different Monday morning? So I'm not going to go through all of these, but let me just say 6 megatrends: time, authentic customer experience, authentic human connections, I should say, organized around the customer, vigilant organizations driven by purpose, business models shifting from optimization to agility, and global supply chains, are moving to be proximity to demand. So all of that is part of the 5th industrial revolution. Question that I have for you is, what is it that you're going to do Monday? Because crises are the catalyst of change, and right now, the powerhouses of the next economic era are being born. So your opportunity is like right now. All right, I know I'm over, but if anybody wants to do a deep dive and spend an hour or an hour and a half with me and kind of get, and unpack all of this, you got my information, drop me a note. Thrilled to actually go do this because there's so much happening. There's so much goodness happening. And with that, Tim, I'm going to turn it over to you. And again, sorry I went over.
That was great. Thank you so much, Christine. Lots of 6 megatrends. That was great. Even after the summit, love to even share the slide deck. So
sure, absolutely.
Thank you so much. And again, I just want to thank all the sponsors, BigCommerce as our platinum sponsors, Gorgeous, Avalara, and APS Payments as our gold sponsors, and Dot Digital, Punch Out to Go, ShipStation, Metacake, and DCKAP Chloris as our silver sponsors. But yeah, that's it. That's all that we have for today. Looking forward to the next one. We do have events on a monthly basis, smaller ones called e-sessions. So specific case study examples for B2B and distributors. If you want to even have us analyze your company and do a case study, do let us know. We would love to showcase and highlight your company. And then we should have another eSummit in April. We do 2 big ones every year. And we're glad that for all you guys to join us for this one, and we look forward to the next one. But that's it. That's all that we have for now, and we look forward to another great event. You guys stay safe out there. We'll see you soon.